Hey, what is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Father Built podcast. This podcast is all about building up fathers in holiness, healthiness, and happiness, aiming to give fathers the tools to build their house of legacy. I am your host, Bobby Peacock, and like I said earlier, welcome back. Today we have another special guest. Now, this guest, he is a husband, father, girl dad, ex-law enforcement officer, entrepreneur of at least two businesses, local community leader, involved in so many nonprofits, and also a really good friend. Welcome to the podcast, Julian Beaudion.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, how are you, man?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Not just any ex-law enforcement officer, ex-trooper.
Ex-trooper,
There's a
okay.
difference,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
ex-trooper. So, man. So, like, I mean, obviously I gave you that big elaborate intro, but like, give me like a 2-minute version of like who Julian is.
Oh, man. I am someone who's not perfect,
Yep.
someone who's constantly learning,
Yep.
particularly from my girls.
Mm. Yeah.
Someone who always looks for a challenge,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm not comfortable unless I'm being challenged sometimes.
Yeah.
And I like to chill.
Yeah.
Like people ask me, man, you do all of these things. When do you have time? I promise you, I like my chill time. You know what I mean? I like a glass of whiskey. I like my cigar. I like to be
Yeah.
with my wife. As a matter of fact, my wife started. She doesn't smoke cigars as much as I do, but she'll grab a cigar every now and then, and so
Yeah.
I like that time with her just to sit on the front steps and
Yeah.
puff on a cigar and just like relax and not have to feel like we need to worry about stuff.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
that's who I am behind the scenes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Now, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but what you just said, like, obviously you are a busy man. How do you make time for your family?
So growing up, my wife had a very different experience than I did.
Okay.
Both of us had some hardships growing up, but
Yeah.
our hardships were different.
Yep.
And so one thing that she really harped on when we first met was, hey, if we're going to make this thing last, family has to come first.
Yeah.
And we have to make room for family
Yeah.
at all times, particularly if we talked about this and it came to fruition, but particularly if we have a daughter. You're going to have to be there for your daughter.
Yeah.
And her relationship with her father is so close, and I admire that so much that I
Yeah.
take bits and pieces from what they have and the special bond and relationship that they have. And I try to implement that, into what I have with my girls as well,
Yeah.
along with what I learned from my father and from what I see from some other fathers, we got some good people out here, man. We got some good fathers out here
Yeah. Come on.
to be able to pull some stuff from. And
Yeah.
I don't want to rewrite the book.
Yeah.
If I see something, I'm like, oh yeah, let me try that. And if my daughters are receptive to it,
Yeah.
it's something that we keep. So it's intentional.
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It was an intentional conversation that I had with my, at the time, girlfriend, who's now my wife.
Yeah.
Prior to having children, it was an understanding
Yeah.
that family has to be first and foremost.
Yeah.
And even in business,
Yeah.
we set our work schedule. That's one of the perks about being a business owner,
Yeah.
is that you can set your own hours.
That's right. Come on.
So we set our work schedule at the restaurant around what
Yep.
we can and cannot do
Yep.
with and for family.
Yeah.
And people ask, hey, why are you closed on Sundays and why are you closed on Mondays? Well, Monday is cleaning day,
Yep.
and Sunday's gonna forever be family day.
Yeah. Come on.
So
Amen
that
to
just
that.
is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you were an ex-trooper.
Yep.
How long did you do that for?
So ex-trooper, I've been conditioned to say ex-trooper or former trooper.
Okay.
And I was talking to another guy, he retired, man, and he was
Yeah.
like, nah, I've been retired for 20-something years, man, and I'm still
still
recovering.
Okay.
So I'm a recovering trooper.
Okay.
There you go.
Recovering trooper.
Yeah, I'm a
okay.
recovering trooper.
So recovering trooper. So how long were you a trooper for?
A little bit over 13 and a half years, pretty close to 14.
Whew. So like you talk about family and making that investment into your family.
Yep.
What was that like being in the law enforcement and like late nights, long hours? Like, break that down for, because we probably have some law enforcement officers that listen to this
Sure.
podcast. So,
yeah, for sure. It was for me.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Because as a trooper, you don't have a partner. So I got my alone time.
Yep.
I became a meditator. I got deep into meditation sometimes.
Yeah.
I would listen to audiobooks as I was driving.
Yeah.
So like over the years, I've probably read, I don't know, a couple hundred books.
Dang.
Listened to.
Yeah. Same.
Couple hundred books,
yep.
right?
Yep.
And I don't remember them all, but I do know like all of them poured into me and poured into who I am.
Yeah.
And for my family, it was great to a certain extent. Now, when I retired, my wife and I had a conversation about, I have to get to know you again.
Wow.
Because who you were in uniform is not who you are now. And so, that was major.
Yeah.
That was huge, man.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to receive it, to be honest with you, because I knew who I was.
Yeah.
But for my wife of 17 years
Yeah.
to not know who I was, because I had a certain mindset,
Yeah.
For almost 14 years, for the majority of our marriage. And for my oldest daughter's 13, for all of her life.
Yeah.
The only thing she's known me as is a trooper.
Yeah.
And I do the things in the community or whatever, but every day I put that uniform on.
Yeah.
And so it became an identity.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And for my wife to say, I have to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
I have to get to know you again. Because now that you have the uniform off, things are different.
Yeah.
She would, you mentioned night shifts.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, those were a challenge. Because I didn't just work night shift by myself. Although I didn't have a partner, my wife would stay up until I got home.
Yep.
And then she'd have to get up sometimes and get the kids ready for school and like do the things.
Yep.
And she allowed me to sleep.
Yeah.
Because I was on night shift for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I worked 30-day stretches on night shift sometimes. So, like having a sleep schedule or a sleep rotation that's different, not just for me, but again, like my entire household.
Yeah.
Having a car parked in the driveway provided a level of security for my girls. And when I retired, I told my girls, and first thing my oldest daughter said was, how are we going to be protected now? And she couldn't grasp the concept that I'm still me.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But she knew that in that uniform, I was a different me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. There was a lot of change, again, not just for me, but for my entire family. I think we're finally starting to settle down in it a little bit. April 18th of last year was my date that I stepped away.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit over a year now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm fully comfortable yet. And again, as we mentioned earlier, I don't know if I'll ever be fully comfortable because I'm recovering.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like reentry.
Yeah.
I'm reentering a society that I'm not used to right now.
Yeah.
So
you don't have a badge. You don't have. Yeah. So do you feel like there's a bigger, like target like on your back? Because I know you're like pretty involved in the community, and you have different stances than. I mean, even me have different stances, and and I still have a lot of respect. I mean, me and you can go toe to toe on certain things
all the time,
and we can banter and stuff, but we still love each other. But like, do you feel that like I said, do you feel that you have a bigger target on your back because you don't have the uniform to protect you and your family now?
No.
Okay.
Crazy enough.
Yeah.
Again, there's a family side to this thing, and then there's the Julian side to this.
Yep.
And for me, I felt like I had a bigger target on my back when I had the uniform on.
Okay. Wow.
Because of some of the things that I would do in the community, because of some of the things that I stood for. Sometimes I had to watch my back with the people in uniform as well. And that was an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
Having
conversations with you. Yeah.
Man, I can remember times where I called for backup and nobody showed up.
Yeah.
I can remember reporting to gun calls by myself.
Yeah.
And nobody showing up to back me up on gun calls.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can remember one call in particular where I was responding to a gun call, and the guys that were out with me went to lunch instead of coming to assist me on this call.
Yeah.
So, and it all stemmed from the things that they may have disagreed with. Now, it wasn't publicly spoken by them.
Yeah.
But because I was maybe a public speaker or in a public setting sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that tends to put a target on my back. You know what I mean?
And to me, I look at that as like, man, like, because like we'll get into like politics real quick. So
Yeah.
you're obviously a Democrat, right?
I am. Yep.
Yep.
Proud, baby.
And I am more on the conservative libertarian side.
Yep.
Every once in a while I'll dip my toe in the Democratic side.
I ain't seen it yet, but okay.
But like, it's sad that like me and you, we can sit down, we can disagree on policies, disagree on things, and we can have a man-to-man conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And still love each other, right? But yet to have, like, when you look at like police officers, it's kind of like a brotherhood, and like law enforcement officers, they talk about a brotherhood, but yet they won't answer a call because they disagree with you politically or they disagree with your stance, instead of having a man-to-man conversation with you.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's sad. That, to me, I look at that as like, man, that's just petty.
Well, I think it's more than petty. So with your family, you protect those who you consider to be family.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you're not considered family,
yeah,
that's one of those things where I used this term before.
Yep.
For them, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you're not part of this family, if you're not part of this brotherhood, if you're not going to fall in line with what we believe,
yeah,
then you're on your own, man. I can remember, so I spoke at the George Floyd March.
Yep.
I was one of the organizers, and I opened it up with the speech.
Yep, I remember.
And that night, I had to turn around and put the uniform on.
Ooh.
And I had to protect the city. Like the same night. As a matter of fact, 3 hours apart from each other.
Yeah.
My adrenaline was racing on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when I spoke, I called for those around me, the community, and the community knew who I was.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
In my speech, I made it very clear that I was a law enforcement officer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I asked the community for support.
Yeah.
And what gave me chills, and sometimes it still gives me chills when I think about it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that nobody outside of the uniform condemned me for having to put the uniform on that night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They still loved me.
Yep.
My community still loved me.
Yeah.
They respected what I had to do.
Yep.
And they respected that I spoke out.
Yeah.
Because a wrong is a wrong.
Yeah.
No matter
absolutely.
what.
Yep.
However, when I put the uniform on that night, you want to talk about feeling like an outsider. I was on the corner of 41st and Louise.
Oh, so you were like right by the mall.
I was right there.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't on the front lines with the PD.
Yep.
Because again, I'm as a trooper, I was placed somewhere else.
Yeah.
Our SWAT team was with the PD over by the mall.
Yeah.
But I was 41st and Louise, right on the corner where the Starbucks is there and all of that, right? So, they had just busted out some windows in the jewelry store there on the corner.
Pause real quick.
Yeah.
The person who robbed the jewelry store that night, I actually knew him.
Oh man, listen.
Anyways, but continue with your story. Yeah.
So, we had a few members of SWAT who were, again, SWAT is always going to be your frontline recognition. So we had a few members of SWAT that were out there, but and they were all troopers, and they seemed to have this sense of brotherhood around them at the time. They were most definitely together in that moment.
Yeah.
I was lonely.
Yeah.
I was by myself. I was watching my back.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I had up against me. Again, from the people who at the time were rioting. Yeah. And also the individuals who were in uniform. Yeah. I had a conversation with, at the time, who was my superior, one of my superior officers, prior to this, prior to me speaking. Yeah. And because I had started to get, some negative messages that came in. I started to, as a matter of fact, I got a couple death threats that came in. And one of those, not necessarily a death threat, but one of those threats to physical harm, at least, came from a trooper's wife and came on social media. And so, I had a conversation with my superior, and his words were, "Well, you put that target on your own back."
Wow.
So again, it was vastly different.
Yeah.
I was comfortable in one setting and not
Yeah.
comfortable in the other. And so fast forwarding all of that
Yeah.
to my date of, leaving
Yeah.
the Highway Patrol, I miss it. I absolutely miss the work that I did. I miss
Yeah.
the impact that I had on the community.
Yeah.
I was the only black trooper in the state for a while.
Yeah.
I miss having the recognition of other black people in the community saying one of us is in the uniform.
Yeah.
Because that was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I had no support from within.
Yeah.
And so when it was time to go, it was time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. How did your wife deal with, I mean, because like when you look back at 2020, like I was there for that speech. I mean,
Yeah.
we did a documentary. I had the privilege of filming
Yep.
a little short documentary on
Which
you.
y'all need to go watch.
Yes, y'all need to go watch. Like, how did your wife and like even your kids, like, how did they handle it? Like all the threats and the uncomfortability that seeing their dad, walk through.
My oldest daughter just kind of stepped right into it.
Really?
She and this is what 4 years ago, 4 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So she's 13 now. She was 9 at the time,
mm-hmm.
and the year after, she just had this urge to speak, and so we put on the MLK events every year. We help put on with the city help put on the MLK events every year.
Yeah,
and at the time I was the executive director of the African American History Museum.
Yeah,
and so the mayor asked if we can have participation from a student in the city.
Yeah.
My daughter overheard that conversation and said, "You don't have to look for a student. I'm right here."
Wow.
Yeah. So
she's like, "I'm ready."
The very next year, man, she stood up and she followed the mayor, speaking at an MLK Day event.
Yeah.
And now she hasn't done that often.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But right after, she was so motivated to say, even I, at 9 or 10 years old, have the ability to say something, even if I can't physically do something right now.
Yeah.
And that's really important because your voice is the most powerful tool that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as soon as you lose that, you're done.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's so good. So where did she learn that from? Was it like,
Inka and I, so my wife Inka,
Yep.
Inka and I don't push our kids to do anything they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Because if we did, man, all of my girls would be playing basketball. You know what I mean? Like all of them.
Yes, all stars.
However, none of them play basketball. So with that though, I think she just sees the work that Inka and I do in the community.
Yeah.
And the best way to lead is by example.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, as long as the example you're setting is a good example.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we try our best not to be good examples just for our girls, but for all of these kids, for the next generation to follow us.
Yeah.
And so I think they just saw what they liked.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, listen, I have a reputation for cooking the best eggs in the house.
Really?
My wife's a chef.
Okay.
But she cannot outcook me in eggs.
And eggs. That's the one thing that you got.
That's all I got, brother. That's it.
She can out
That's all I
barbecue
got,
you.
bro.
She can out.
No. Wait a minute. Hold on, nah. Ain't nobody gonna touch my grill. Can't nobody touch my grill. No, but the eggs is like, that's a specialty, right?
Yeah,
like if somebody's hungry in the middle of the night, Daddy, can you make some eggs?
Okay.
So, something like that. So
yeah.
My middle girl has gotten involved in cooking.
Yeah.
She loves the way her mom is in the kitchen doing the things.
Yeah.
And so, I've taught her to make eggs. And so now between her and I, we have egg cooking competitions.
Okay.
Right. So like, again, we're not pushing them to be involved in the things that we love to do.
Yeah.
But because everything we do, we involve our family in.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's second nature now.
Yeah, for sure. So what's it like being a girl dad?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's my oldest asked me the other day. She was like, because we used to have a female dog as well.
Okay.
Bella passed away
last
year, and so now we just got a new dog. Mm-hmm. His name's Beignet, by the way.
Beignet,
and he is a ball of energy.
Okay.
Oh my, so much energy.
Yeah.
And so my oldest daughter asked me. She said, "Daddy, what is it like to have your first boy now?"
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I never wanted a boy.
Wow.
I just, I never thought about like, what do I want? I just wanted kids. I knew I wanted children.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But man, after my first daughter was born, who by the way was born the day before Father's Day, celebrated her birthday this year, the day before Father's Day.
Yeah.
It was like, I just knew at that moment that I fell in love with having a daughter.
Yeah.
And for me, having 3 daughters is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it like? It's perfect.
Yeah. But you also haven't entered the dating season again.
And we're not going to. Don't speak that into existence. Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
You be cleaning your guns.
Yeah. We're not gonna do it.
So like, you talked about how you don't want to put, like your kids in uncomfortable like positions and stuff like that. Like what about like the pursuit for excellence? Because like there has to, you have to embrace. They have to learn how to embrace uncomfortability. So like, how do you?
For sure. So I guess what I mean by not pushing them to be uncomfortable is not necessarily not pushing them to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But not pushing them to do something they're not passionate about doing.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm passionate about politics. I'm passionate about basketball.
Yeah.
But if my daughter does not share that same passion, I'm not going to push her into that.
Yeah.
However, we are some Southern parents.
Yep.
And if you're uncomfortable with math, you just gonna have to be uncomfortable with math.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get this work done.
Yeah, I hate
right.
math.
The essence of excellence is pushing beyond being uncomfortable. And so that's what we talk about with our girls is, yes, it will be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But as a Black woman, every room you walk in will be uncomfortable.
Wow.
How do you push back past that to show that room that you're excellent?
Yeah.
And that work begins now.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And like, speaking of like the Black woman and being uncomfortable, like how does that make you feel as a father raising, 3, Black women?
I'm confident in the way we're raising our daughters.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that they're going to have the ability to stand within their rights and by themselves at times.
Yeah.
To again shine through the mess.
Yeah.
Whatever the mess is, because there's a ton of mess surrounding women, surrounding Black folks, but particularly Black women.
Yeah.
And so my wife is a Black woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has the lived experience.
Yeah.
Every day there's something. People walk into the restaurant and ask her for the owner, as if she's not the owner, as if she doesn't have the capability to own something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My girls have seen that.
Yeah.
My girls have experienced that.
Yeah.
So, again, having just the next level of thought behind what excellence is, I think is what we're trying to give our girls the ability to possess.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just having the ability to be overly confident in situations.
Yeah.
But to be able to think beyond what someone else thinks of you.
That's so good. Yeah.
So,
Can I take a moment to brag on your wife?
Yeah,
real quick?
please do,
dude.
Please.
So I was in a conversation with your wife, and I said something that triggered her, and she's like, "Oh snap, I'm triggered," and then I said, "I'm sorry," and then her next words like just hit me, and I quote this all the time. She's like, "You're not responsible for my triggers," and I'm like, dang. And then we continue the conversation, but like your wife is just like so amazing. Like she knows how to communicate so well, how to handle conflict so well, and she's also a beast of a cook. So
for sure,
Inca, major shout out to you. So
big props. Listen,
big props.
She will. She preaches. Sometimes, like I mean, her dad is a minister.
Okay,
a former minister, I should say.
Yeah,
and sometimes, man, like don't give her a mic because it's gym after gym after gym, just like a Black Southern minister. She got it in her. She got it in her. Yeah, she got it in her for sure.
Yeah. So, like, what was your childhood like growing up? Like, was your father in the picture? Was he not, kind of thing?
A little bit of both, actually.
Can we go there?
Yeah, we can go there.
Okay,
we can go
cool.
there. It was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
This might be one of the first times I talk publicly about this. So
okay,
we'll see.
Hey,
we'll see how it
you're
goes.
comfortable.
No. We're good. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
so yes, he was in the picture, but he also wasn't. So my mom and father were not together.
Okay.
My father was married, had another family.
Okay.
I was the youngest out of all the kids.
Yeah.
He stayed with his wife and his family, and then I was over here.
Yeah.
So when he had the ability to,
Yeah.
he was there.
Yeah.
But he still had a family to maintain.
Yeah.
He was a teacher. He was an educator
Okay.
for a long period of time. He actually passed away when I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, here's what I would say about my father. If I picked up the phone to call him, no matter what, no matter when, no matter where,
Yeah.
he was there.
Yeah.
He was a great person.
Yep.
Oh man, when I tell you he was brilliant,
Yeah.
you know, dude was brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
This is what I miss most about my father is that I didn't have the opportunity to have a full-fledged conversation with him. You know, most people get a chance to sit down and have a discussion with their father about life.
Yeah.
I never had that with him. I missed out on that.
Yeah.
I take advantage of that now with my father-in-law.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss those moments for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, after my dad died, had one black male as a teacher, Master Sergeant Jackson.
Yeah.
Still remain in contact with him today.
Yeah.
But he became a mentor of mine as well.
Okay.
And so having those conversations with black men who looked like my father,
Yeah.
you know, who were in positions as educators like my father was, that was instrumental in me growing up.
Yeah.
But to be able to sit down and have that discussion with my father, I never talked to my father about girls.
Yeah.
You know, like none of those things.
Yeah.
And so, although he was a great father, although he was present when I picked up the phone, his absence was definitely felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like how, cause like you're out here and you're a father and like you are breaking like what we call like in the Christian world, we would call like generational curses. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yep.
And so like now, like does your past like affect how you parent now?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I do want to make sure that I'm always there and present.
Yeah.
Even when we're not having those, what I mentioned, like those deep conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if I'm sitting down on the couch watching, you know, Bugs Bunny with the girls, whatever it may be. That presence is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be able to sit down on the couch after a long, hard day.
Yeah.
And have all three of my girls pile on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just sit there and take the abuse.
Yeah. You are the playground.
I am the playground.
Yeah.
I am the playground.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely, now I get tired of it sometimes, but I love it.
Yeah.
You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like that's what brings some of the joy out of me. And then sometimes I'll be on the ground wrestling with my girls.
Yeah.
I wrestle with them like they're boys sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll wrestle, and then I'll look over. My wife is just sitting down and she's just smiling because she knows she had that same thing with her father.
Yeah.
And that's what tells me I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because again, the relationship that she has with her father is that unbreakable bond.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working towards. I'm working towards having an unbreakable bond with all three of my girls.
Yeah.
And if I can look back at someone who has built that same type of bond and they're giving me like that stamp of approval, I know I'm doing something right.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Like, because like I feel like there's always this perception of like within the black community or even just in people who see the black community of like fathers not being in existence. And so do you feel the pressure of just by you being black that you have to excel in this area of fatherhood?
I used to.
Yeah.
Until I started becoming a data nerd. And
data
then
nerd?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, just like researching different facts. And as I said, I was the executive director of the African American History Museum for a while, and so researching different aspects of Black life, Black culture.
Okay. Can you hit me with some facts?
Well,
man?
I stumbled upon the fact that the highest percentage rate of fathers that are in households are actually Black men.
Really?
Yes, sir. So
I'm a fact check that.
Yeah, you should. You absolutely should.
But that's crazy.
Yeah. So I used to feel pressure because I used to feel like, man, I have to be the example. I got to be different. And now I'm like, oh, we actually are the example.
Yeah.
Other people should be looking at us and our participation in our children's lives. Now, I'm not saying that everything else in our lives might not be great,
Yeah.
right? Because there are definitely some things that all of us,
Yep.
black men, white men,
Yeah.
Asian men, every man,
Yep.
can work on to be better husbands, better fathers, better
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
better men.
Yeah.
But in that aspect, we're leading the way.
Wow.
We are leading the way. We are involved in our children's lives more than anybody else.
Yeah. So where do you think the stigma of like black men not in a household like comes from then?
So here's how I stumbled upon that fact.
Yeah.
I was actually doing some research on the intentional removal of black men from the household for black families to be able to get subsidized income.
Yeah.
Which
So it's not
we call welfare.
Yeah.
Now,
So
right?
So it's not a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy.
I never thought that we would agree on that.
Yeah, it was an intentional effort by the government to remove black men,
Yep.
so that black families would qualify then for welfare.
Yep.
And so that's really where the notion came into play. Now, for a while, because of that, black men were out of the household.
Yeah.
Because again, they were intentionally removed.
Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
at the height of the crime epidemic, where every black man was being arrested for every little thing.
Yep.
Right? Black men again were being intentionally removed from the household. So
Yep.
you did have aspects of history
Yeah.
where black men were lower
Yeah.
in the engagement levels in their family.
Yeah.
But we're not anymore.
Yeah. So you feel that the tide has switched.
Yeah, there's always going to be room to grow again.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's tons of room for improvement.
Yeah.
And it hadn't fully switched yet.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there.
That's crazy. I feel like after hearing that, like I can take some pressure off of myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like I just like ever since I had my son, I'm just like, man, like, and I have tattoos and I love tattoos and like everybody thinks I'm a thug and I'm just like, all right, like I gotta step up. I can't be one of the black men that is not in their kid's life. But like I feel like for me, like I see that so much in the community though within like Sioux Falls. Like I see a lot of young black men who are not with their kids, or and that breaks my heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that was my dad. My dad was rocking the streets, and I think about it. I caught my dad on the best years of his life as a parent, and I only had 3 years with him. Yeah. I remember going back home and talking with my brother and my sister, and they knew my dad all their life when he was in the streets and out of the streets, and there was so much hurt and pain from that. And so, man, that's a revelation.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
now,
crazy.
Let me give you two things just kind of based on what you said.
Yeah.
The first thing is I feel, and I know in my heart, that one of the reasons why black men are doing better is because black women demand so much more of us. And if we're not rising to the occasion for our black women, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
So we owe it to them.
Yeah.
They ran our families for so long. They continue to lead our families for so long in a lot of areas of our lives. As a matter of fact, right now, black women are the most educated group of people in the United States.
Wow.
So black women are leading the way, and we owe it to them. We have an obligation to black women in our community to do better. So that's one.
Okay.
Second thing is, you ever got a new car and then you drive around and you be like, dang, this car is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If that's all you know to look for, that's all you're going to look for.
See. Yeah.
So if all you knew at the time was to look for people who are not involved in their families' lives, that's probably all you're going to see.
And I feel like that was ingrained because and this is no offense, but like, because like people, like, how do I say it? It's like I grew up in white culture where that was pointed out a lot more than like probably if I would have grown up in black culture.
For sure.
And so I think, because like I remember I was in a conversation and someone was like, oh, you talk white. And I'm like, what? Hold on. No, I talk proper. I'm an educated black man that grew up in white culture.
For sure.
But I am not white. I hate when people say that.
Yeah.
I get that all the time. You're an Oreo. Or inside out Oreo. I'm digressing. But like, I think it's probably because like I grew up in white culture and that's all I heard about. And then so now like driving that new car, Like that's all I saw. So
Yeah.
that's a word right there.
Well, I just
Yeah.
gave you a new car.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
now
So,
I'm going.
so
Yeah,
now you're gonna start looking and be like, oh, there's so and so.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
his children.
Well, and the crazy thing is like I know like the last guest I had on this podcast is, like his dad was my counselor, and very active in his kid's life, and then he has a kid now, and he's he's black. I would. Half white, half black, but
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
black.
he black.
He black.
Yeah.
And so I do know a lot of amazing, black fathers
For
that
sure.
are active in their kids' life. And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how do we flip the script so that like people don't say, well, this is how it's portrayed on TV,
For
or
sure.
this is how it's
Yep.
portrayed in the news, or this is what it's like in the hood. And it's like, bro, have you
Yep.
ever been to the hood?
For sure. Right.
Like,
exactly.
yeah, and I look at like my father, even though he wasn't there, he tried to be there for
Yeah.
the kids that he had, especially in the later part of his years, and so he tried to make up for that lost time. And so
Yeah.
man,
Well, like I
it's
said, like even with my father not being around daily,
good.
if I had a basketball game, I'd look up. First quarter, my dad was standing in the doorway watching me play ball.
Yeah,
Second quarter, he might have had to leave, right?
yeah, for
but,
sure.
But first quarter, my dad was there watching me play ball.
Yeah,
If I was actively involved in some type of program at school,
yeah,
I look towards the back of the auditorium and I see my dad standing there.
yeah,
So like involvement and engagement looks different to a lot of people.
yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you mentioned like there's some amazing fathers that you had, John Setzer.
Oh yeah, John
before.
Setzer. Yeah.
Him and Marcy got like 17 kids, man. You know what I mean? Like if
Shout
there's
out to John
if there's
Setzer.
anybody that would have an excuse to be like,
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
this man is actively involved, not just in his community, but he also puts his family first. Like we
Yeah.
have some amazing black fathers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and think about
They don't
it,
have 17 kids.
No,
I'm
no,
just exaggerate.
They got like 4 or 5.
No, I think it's like 5, maybe 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, but that's so true. And now that I think about it, like you're my 4th guest, and like all of them have been black men except for one.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's like whoever answers the call first, I guess. But no, I want to go back to the entrepreneur, because like most of the guys that I have on the podcast are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
What made you and your wife want to be like an entrepreneur? Was it like the thought of spending more time with like your family at the end of the day, or like what was it?
Nah, man, you got to be crazy to be an entrepreneur.
That is true.
I think something's off with us. Is what I.
I think so too.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
No, I quite honestly, man, I think it's just being in a position to follow what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then turning that into something you can make money off of to support your family. I tell people all the time, if people look at the restaurant, because we do have the largest black-owned restaurant in the state.
Yep.
And so people will look at that and be like, "Oh man, you got a lot of money." Nah, bro,
man.
you know what it takes to run this thing? You know what I mean? Like restaurants have the smallest profit margins of any other business. So we're like next level crazy. You know what I mean? To go into something like that. But my wife's passion is, in the kitchen. It's cooking. It's behind the stove. Yeah. She's a chef. Yeah. And so what can we do to highlight her expertise? Yeah. And help her walk into, what she's passionate about. Yeah. So in the restaurant. Yeah. So we started doing that. My passion had, of course, been law enforcement for so long, but man, very, very quickly I started my career off in peer. Yeah. About 3.5 years of that nonsense, because peer is crazy. Yeah. And so we moved back to Sioux Falls, and I very quickly became just kind of started participating in different nonprofit organizations. I just started showing up. I was invited to one meeting. Yep. I sat there. I didn't say anything. I was so uncomfortable. And these were around my own people. These were around black folks. Yeah. So uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? I just kind of sat back. Yeah. But I showed up the next time. Yeah. And then I showed up the next time. And then very, very quickly, I found myself having an opinion. And I was in a room with folks that wanted to hear my opinion. Yeah. Although they might have disagreed with it sometimes, they received me for who I was. Yeah. They recognized I had an opinion, and the next time they asked for my opinion. And so I felt wanted. I felt welcomed in those spaces. Yeah. And before you knew it, the community became my passion.
Yeah.
You know, I look back now as to why I got into law enforcement, and I don't even remember. But I can tell you the reason I stayed in law enforcement is to impact the community.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what motivated me to keep going.
Yeah.
And it motivated me so much that I forgot why I got into it in the first place.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, like, speaking of entrepreneurship, you are on the groundbreaking thing of the thing called the Hub. What is that?
Yeah.
Talk about that, man.
We, we provide resources for BIPOC entrepreneurs, so Black, Indigenous, people of color.
Yeah.
And also for BIPOC business professionals.
Okay.
And so man, I'm so happy we just moved into our office, or we're currently moving into our office.
Yeah. Excited about that.
Yeah. So, and we're building out a podcast space.
Yeah.
One of the things that we really tried to harp on is communication being a resource.
Yeah.
That has always been a barrier to building relationships. Proper communication has been a barrier to building relationships.
Yeah.
And so our 3 pillars is leadership development,
Yep.
financial literacy, and relationship development.
Yeah.
And so being able to remove some of those barriers is a resource that we can provide to folks to say, hey, now you can step into one of these foundational pillars that we have.
Yeah.
We have programming for the other things.
Yep.
But for this, we're going to provide you an opportunity to tell your own story, create your own narrative,
Yep.
focus on who you are. So when you either apply for that loan or apply for that grant,
Yeah.
this video resume of you have a history now of who you say you are, of the things that you're actually doing. You don't have to just bring them the paper. You don't have to just bring them, the transcript or the projections. You can also bring them this to say, this is me. This is my business. Here's my community. Here's how many people follow me.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it gives people a larger profile view of who you are, what you do, and how they can support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, cause like even just being like, cause I'm an entrepreneur myself. Like, I got my hands in so many things, and it gets a little crazy every once in a while. And like the newest thing is obviously this podcast, and like starting from scratch, and trying to build something. It takes time.
Yeah.
But to be able to have a community that has your back and that wants to see you succeed and wants to see you grow is like so important. And I think that's what the Hub is doing.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. I mean, and we have community partners that walk right alongside us. Startup Sioux Falls, the Chamber of Commerce, the Black Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We have
Entertainment.
Peacock Entertainment for sure. We have all of those folks. Let me back up. I got to shout out our biggest supporter, which is First Bank and Trust. Like listen, First Bank and Trust supports us to no end. So I appreciate that. But
shout out to First Bank and Trust.
Yeah. So, but we have folks that walk alongside us. They might not be in our shoes, but they understand what we're driving towards. Absolutely. And they share that vision with us, and we're just grateful for that.
So like how many like, I mean, because this podcast is about like fatherhood and stuff like that, but like how many fathers would you say that like you see coming in and wanting to start businesses and starting from scratch? Like,
quite honestly, not as many as I would like to see.
Yeah, for sure.
For the most part, so in the entrepreneur community right now, there's a strong increase in women becoming entrepreneurs. Wow. And so I work probably more with women than I do men. With that said, though, I did like the most recent business that we are helping trying to develop is a power washing company. It's called Fresh Perspective.
Okay, cool.
My guy Dion Jones. Give him a shout out.
You know what I mean? He's gonna be on the podcast too.
For sure. He's out in T. He just locked in his first client. Like we're excited about all those things. Growth again, just like engagement looks different with people, growth looks different with people. Dion started with a rough past. And so he's an amazing father. But it took him a long time to get to that point. And he'll tell you the story. I'm not gonna tell someone else's story for them. But me knowing his story, I couldn't be more proud of an individual who first focused on family. And when he got that together, he said, all right, now it's time to make a move in his business world. And he's doing so. I'm proud of him, man.
And me and Dion, we go back like, man, I think like 10 years. Like,
it's crazy. He's been here for forever. And nobody knows. Nobody knew the dude was here. You know what I mean? Like he was just hiding for whatever reason.
We used to go to the same church. And like he's he's an amazing dude, you know,
Yeah.
and it's awesome to see, like, because I mean, he's in his what 50?
I think he's in his 50s.
I mean,
yeah.
black don't crack,
I
so
mean,
it's hard to tell.
He might be 21. I don't know. Okay, he got gray hair.
Yeah. But like to even see him in his journey of like, hey, I'm gonna leave a legacy. I'm gonna turn this around, and I'm gonna build wealth for my family. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are out there that are rich, but there's a difference between being rich and having wealth.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like the hub is like, yo, like we ain't gonna make you rich, but we're gonna make you wealthy.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're gonna help
in
you
many
with that.
different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like again, those 3 pillars are all based on being wealthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Being wealthy in your leadership skills, being wealthy in the development of your relationships.
Yeah.
And then being able to sustain your, not just this family, but the next generation of your family.
Exactly.
Financially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've told you this, man. It's like, man, I want someday to have like a black-owned building here in Sioux Falls. I don't think there is one yet.
I don't know. I think there might be 1 or 2.
Okay.
1 or 2. Yeah.
Well, I want the biggest one though.
Listen, I'm with it. Yes, sir. I'll get the one next to you. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, man?
Nah, man. I think we touched on it all. I first off, I appreciate this this platform that you're building,
absolutely.
just to highlight what fathers are doing in the community.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe there is one thing
Okay.
I do want to touch on.
Yeah.
This is going back to hyping up black women, particularly my wife.
All right, come on.
We got to do it.
Let's go.
Sometimes, especially when I was a trooper, sometimes in my absence, my wife had to be the father in the household.
Yeah.
And I don't think the women in our lives get enough credit for playing both roles. I can only say that because now that I've retired, I have to deal with some aspects of playing mom.
Yeah.
And how difficult that is, and how difficult it is understanding the levels of emotions that run through my household.
Yeah. The amount of estrogen.
Yes. You know? And I'm like, how in the world did my wife deal with this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I flipped the script and I'm like, man, it seems like it's effortless, effortlessly that she can go from being mom, nurturing our kids, to being the disciplinarian, and being that father figure sometimes in my absence. I see it in my household. I really appreciate it, and I know it's happening in other households.
Yeah.
So I just think we got to give a shout out to the women who are playing both roles, particularly some of those single women out there who have to do that daily, 24/7.
Yeah.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
Men can't do it.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. Well, let me back up. Let me back up, because this is single father right here.
Yeah.
Single father right here.
Yeah.
But we can't play. I don't think we can play the role as well as women can.
No, I think, because as you pointed out, I am a single father, and I have my son 50% of the time. And like lately, he's been in his mama stage, like a mama boy stage, and like it took 3 years for me and his mom to kind of be like good co-parents, and like we are in like. I mean, it's like we are in such a beautiful season of like co-parenting where we can communicate effectively. But like I would say it is hard, like for me, because I didn't have a consistent father in my life.
Right.
And so when I have my son, it's like, okay, I have to be disciplined, but I also have to nurture his emotions. And I think part of that was because of the amount of counseling that I went through. And so like, even like, I'm just, we got time. So I'm gonna be honest with you. We're just going to have a candid, honest conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're right. Like credit, like for women is like, is due, 100% due. I struggle because, and I talked about this in one of my last podcasts, that I don't think we give men enough credit. Like when I look at like how many days celebrate men, how many days celebrate women, and then like how many days like celebrate like the LGBT plus community, I feel like sometimes men get often overlooked because we are the breadwinners, because
Sure.
we are the men that are going out and getting it for our family, and because of that we get overlooked in, or underlooked, or whatever it is, in so many other areas when it comes to parenting and stuff. And some of it is like, you know, like when you look at traditional family roles, traditional masculinity, and then also operating in traditional femininity, you know, like even if you look at it spiritually, like man and women were meant to build a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for me, I struggle because so often, and I'm not trying to like discredit what you said, I'm just saying I struggle with that, you know.
I get that.
And here's a prime example. I'm gonna get raked over the coals with this. Father's Day.
Okay.
There are so many women that take Father's Day and they make it about them, and it ticks me off.
That's not what I thought you were going to say, but okay.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to talk about just like the lack of recognition for fathers on Father's Day,
well,
versus Mother's Day. My wife and I just had a conversation
and
about
even that too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's like, and I'm not trying to play the poor me card, you know, but I would say this is a sensitive topic for me because I am a single father, and like all my brothers, like I was surprised the amount of people who recognize me on Father's Day, because I just came into it and didn't expect anything, you know, and so I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Well, I do. So I think because of the expectation of what men are supposed to be is why we feel undervalued.
Yeah,
is the word I'm going to use.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
However, and this is me and my experience.
Yep, for sure.
I will say in my reality, women do far more than men, particularly in Black community.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier about how Black women are the most educated group of individuals in this country.
Yeah.
Well, black women also within the Black community have the highest earnings of anyone else.
Okay.
So that whole breadwinner conversation has switched.
Yeah.
Black men are not necessarily the sole financial provider, the breadwinner of the family any longer.
Yeah.
Black women are. The highest, I can't even remember how it was put. Something about the highest growth rate in CEOs is now, CEOs and directors or something like that, is now Black women.
Wow.
So when you talk about the things that women are doing while also coming home to be mom, while also having to put the shoes on to be father sometimes, while also being husband, or excuse me, being playing a role of
the father,
not the father, sir, the spouse to the husband, the wife to the husband. That's why I think women deserve more credit. I don't think we're undervalued. I think we're not doing enough. And so for me, my challenge to Black men is, if we think we're doing enough, it's probably time to take a look in the mirror and reevaluate ourselves, because we have a whole lot more to do to catch up to the work that the women in our community is doing.
Yeah. Man, you kind of put me in my place, and I was like, man, because I'm like, man, I feel like I am doing enough. I am husband material. I am an entrepreneur. I am all these things.
But so are they.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not trying to downplay, like, and please don't hear that I'm trying to downplay. It's just a struggle that I have, you know? But yeah, I think, I mean, obviously statistics are important. So like, even with that, like cause like your wife and you guys are both entrepreneurs. Like, so like, how does that, like, cause I think of like the biblical family, and we may not agree on this. So
we're not going to agree on that.
But we talk about like, you know, like, would you say you are the head of your household?
I think in aspects of our lives, I am.
Yeah.
But I also say that leading comes with sacrifice, and to be a good leader, you have to be able to sacrifice some of your ego sometimes and take a step back, maybe 2 steps back, to allow your woman to lead you in certain areas of your life too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to learn that.
Yeah,
I absolutely had to learn that. It took several conversations with my wife to say, you can't control this. Not necessarily that I was trying to control her. But controlling the environment that we were in.
Yep.
Sometimes I couldn't, and I tried and I tried
Yep.
and I tried, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tried to control emotions. We just kind of talked about that, right?
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't like an intentional thought to try to control my wife.
Yeah.
But as soon as I tried to control the emotions of my wife, it felt like, right?
Yeah.
And her perception was, you're trying to control this. You're trying to, and I'm not trying to put words in her mouth because I don't think those are the exact words that she used.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But that's the conversation that we had.
Yeah.
You know. And so learning from that, bringing it down to my daughters to say, I don't fully understand what you're going through. I don't understand what this is coming out of you right now. But I know that I can't control it.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna figure out how to work our way around this thing together.
So
and so in aspects like that,
guess
who's leading the way? Not me.
So yeah.
My wife is.
Yeah.
So am I the head of my household? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I got a co-parent.
Yep.
You know, we're together, but we co-parent. We co-do everything together. And that's my co-leader.
And just to put the disclaimer, I wasn't trying to goat you or anything.
Yeah, no, you're good.
The answer, but like, and I think that's like, to me, I look at that. That's like the biblical response, because like the Bible talks about how the husband is the head of household, but it also talks about how the husband needs to sacrifice for his family, like Christ died for the church.
Sure.
And so sometimes it is like you said, of like, I need to allow other people, like my wife, to lead, and I need to take a back seat. And I think so often, like you said, and you had to learn this, is that us men, we let our pride go in front of us, and we say, no, I'm the head of the household. This is going to happen my way, instead of like, I'm going to give my wife the opportunity to lead, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to put myself in a learning position so that I can learn from my wife. And
for sure. I think that comes too, though, with understanding traditional roles of parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also having an understanding of what the Bible says about, the traditional parenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would challenge you, though.
Here we go.
I would challenge you to have a gay father. Two gay fathers. Come on this podcast and talk about how they parent.
Wow.
Because I've had several conversations with folks who are part of the LGBTQIA plus community who are absolutely amazing parents.
Yeah.
And we stand to learn things from them because they have a different perspective of life.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge you to take the word traditional out of your vocabulary. Out of your vocabulary for sure, and have someone who's different sitting in the seat to then challenge your thought process on how they view life, how they view parenting.
All right. This brings in a different topic.
Okay.
I'm not going to cut this out of the podcast. We're just going to dive right into it.
Cool.
Because this is, like when we look at political views, this is where we differ. Something that I've been thinking about is lately, and I thought about putting like a Instagram reel or TikTok out there. Do you feel that it is okay to be pro traditional marriage in the climate that we live in?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with someone being the opposite of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
You can be pro whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
As long as you're not trying to rag on somebody who's the opposite of you.
Yeah.
You can be pro guns, but if I don't like guns, don't push it off on me. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so if you're pro traditional marriage, that's your choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me. Particularly, you said politics. I'm gonna throw it back into the Democratic Party.
Yep.
For me and the party that I belong to, our beliefs are we just want autonomy.
Yeah.
We want the word freedom's thrown around all the time.
Yeah.
In the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But that party is the main one trying to take away the autonomy for people to choose things.
Yeah.
True freedom is to have the choice. And so that's what I believe in. If I want to love a man, that's my choice. That's my right.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't believe it, don't love a man.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that simple.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where, because like, we're just jumping into it, man. Kind of where I'm at is like, I believe in a world where everybody has some kind of foundation, right?
Yeah.
Or core values that will never change. And so, to a point, if I would ask you what 2 + 2 is, you would say
4.
4.
Yep.
right? Even though it's like, there's like the math and all that other stuff, right? But we know that that's 4.
Mm-hmm.
I believe people have that same concept with their core values, right?
Sure.
There are certain things in me as a father, as a future husband, that will never change, right?
Yep.
So when I talk about like traditional marriage and my views on traditional marriage, like that is a core value that I have, that will never change, because like that comes from the Bible, and I use the Bible as like I tell people I have a biblical worldview. So what that means is that, like, hey, here's the Bible, here's the world. Whatever the world says, I filter that through the Bible, and then whatever comes out from the Word, that is my belief system. That is my filter. But I will say this: just because I have these core values, and like I am very much like pro traditional marriage, and I'm very much pro like Bible, I can still love my neighbor who is gay. I can still love my neighbor who disagrees with me. I can still have those conversations and be the opposite of the troopers that you worked with.
For sure.
Like for me, if I work with you, and let's just hypothetically say I was like white or a different belief system, I would still have your back.
For sure.
Because that is the humanity in me. And the Bible talks about like love your neighbor as you love yourself. We as people, we strive to love ourselves the most. That's why we are selfish in nature. And so if I can't love my LGBTQ plus person as I love myself, even though I do have the right to, whether it's disagree with that lifestyle or put it in whatever term, I have the freedom to say that, I have the freedom to think that, I'm still going to love them, and I'm not going to have a hard conversation with them unless I don't know them.
So you use the word, and we had this conversation at Hello High one time.
Yeah.
You remember this?
Yep.
You use the word disagreement.
Yep.
I think it's hard for anyone to disagree with someone else's life choice. If that's their life choice, I don't have to make it my life choice.
Yeah.
But I can't disagree with something that's working for someone else.
Yeah, I think
not in that aspect of life.
And the hard thing is like this is what I think is that we live in such a sensitive culture where I can't, like, for example, I was in a conversation where like this lady was trying to be an ally for her friend, who was of the I like to just say pride community instead of LGBT because it's a lot. For the pride community, and I just said, hey, they just have a different value system than I do.
Sure. And
she raked me over the coals for saying that. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, you have a different value system than I do. And so like, I think, and we, like, for example, like before I was married, like I was a virgin until I was 23, and I had sex outside of marriage. There's people in the church that would very much disagree with that lifestyle.
Sure.
And they have a right to say that because it comes from a biblical foundation where the Bible talks about how sex is within marriage, and that is for the marital bedroom. And so, like, I think we have to be okay with people disagreeing with people and be okay with that, with people's lifestyle. Like, if there's a drug person that values drugs and that's their value system, I don't agree with that. I disagree with that lifestyle. And so, like, for me, like, I think, like, when we look at the word love, right? Like, the Bible talks about speak truth in love. Well, truth is not always easy to hear.
Your truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put on to someone else. It's not always easy for them to hear because it's not their truth. That's where I come from when I say disagreement. The word disagreement sometimes feels like disapproval.
But is it okay to have disapproval?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of gray area in that.
Yeah.
But particularly when you talk about that community.
Yeah.
Right? The pride community.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We can't go around saying, and I won't go around saying that I disagree or disapprove of something that anyone else does because it's their sexual choice or it's how they were born. I can't go around saying that I disapprove on someone being born. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's where, once again, we may disagree because, you know, like, I feel there hasn't been enough evidence to prove that someone was born this way. Like what you say is like in the Christian realm, we would say, well, they were born sinful, and maybe this is a sin that they've struggled with.
Yeah, but we were all born sinful.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There may be some sins that I was born with that you may not. So like I can see it that way, but like I think like at the end of the day, like no matter how it's communicated, like I want to make it clear to all the people that I love that community.
Yep.
Right. But I also have a foundation that I have to stay on. And,
for sure.
And like when I look at like one of the most like famous stories, and I shouldn't say famous stories, but one of a really good story that's often used in the Bible is like Jesus with this woman at the well, where Jesus comes to this woman at the well and he's like, yo, where's your husband at? And she's like, I don't have no husband. And Jesus, like, you know, in all of his wisdom and knowing, he's like, well, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, well, you had multiple, you know, you had multiple partners or whatever. And basically, like, Jesus called out the sin, which was tough love, but yet he stepped into a place of love and said, hey, you know what, you're forgiven. And that woman went and changed her whole community. And so when I look at like whether it's like the pride community or like the drunk people that I hang out at the bar with, like I'm just like, you know what, I love you guys, and I want to be here for you guys. It's not my job to change them. It's the Holy Spirit's job. It's the God behind me who's going to change them if they so accept. But all I can do is love them. And if they want to have a difficult conversation like how we're having, then I'm open to that. But I'm never going to force Christianity on somebody. But I have a foundation that I need to live within.
So that particular story that you used, the woman at the well.
Yeah.
So Jesus forgiving the woman for her sins allowed her to make changes in her life that changed an entire community.
Yep.
Right? Using that in reference to the pride community says that you want them to change.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the reason why. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's like, so like this comes down to, man, I'm going to get raked over the coals. This is,
you probably are, because I'm about ready to do it too.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree with what you said. Now here's like, that's where absolutely. I can disagree. I'm not disagreeing with someone's value or who they are. I am disagreeing with something that you said or how you perceive something.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to disagree with something someone says, but it's hard, almost impossible, to disagree with the way someone has chosen to live.
See, and I think that's a hard thing, because like I look at my son, right? And let's just say my son decides to be a menace of society. Like he's like, he grows up and he's like, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to be poor, and I'm not going to be a contributing member of society. I would disagree with that lifestyle, even though he chose it. Okay. I could still love my son. Sure. I can 100% love my son.
So here's what makes that different. That to me, now that you put it that way, I'm gonna maybe twist a little bit my philosophy.
We're going so overtime, but this is so good. This is needed. Yeah.
I might twist my philosophy just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I definitely use the words a chosen lifestyle, but I also say that I believe people were born that way. I actually think that the majority of those folks in that community were born that way. Some of those individuals, of course, have a chosen lifestyle. They choose to live in a certain way. But I can't disagree. I can disagree with the lifestyle choice. This is where I'm changing the thing. I can disagree with the lifestyle choice because you put it that way about your child. Because I can see myself doing that with my children.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't disagree with the way someone was born because that's something that's out of my control.
And that's where, for me, like I said, that's for me, like I said, is like I need to see the scientific proof, and I'll research the scientific proof, and then we'll come back and we'll rehash this conversation.
Listen,
you'll be my first guest because I don't want people to be like left on a cliffhanger.
Yep.
But like, and I just don't know in that answer, and it's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah.
In that answer, but like this is what I know is that like for me, when I look at like God's love for me, it's like a father-son relationship, right? And I also look at God, and it's like at the end of the day, and this is what I tell people, like I don't judge people in that community, even though like I have a foundation and I feel like this is a safe place to have this conversation because we're homies, and you know we're coming from two sides of the perspective, but I would never have this conversation with somebody that I don't know, kind of thing.
But you should.
Well, no.
That's the challenge.
No, that I don't have a relationship with, because here's the reason why. I've tried, and what ends up happening is because it's such a sensitive topic that, like with that person that I met and they got triggered really quickly.
Sure.
You know, this just proves that like some people can't handle this conversation.
For sure, not everyone's going to be able to handle a conversation like this. Absolutely, but it's triggering because the world has made them feel as if they have been disapproved. Because the world, I say the world, our country.
You can say Christians.
Our country. Okay,
you can go that far
because I think that's where it is. Christians have made gay folks feel so uncomfortable in our society that they do get triggered when another Christian comes up to them and tries to have that conversation. And I completely understand it, because if I was approached by, let's go back in the 1800s, if I was a free man and I was approached by a slave owner, I'd be triggered too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do.
Yeah, for sure.
I was born a free man, I'll die a free man.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perception that I would have.
Yep.
And so as someone gay in this particular society, if they were born gay, they will die gay. And you're not going to tell them what they can and cannot do based on your values, because they hold a different set of values than you.
Yep. But the thing that I struggle with is because you can flip-flop that. Because they're trying to impose their values on my values.
Are they trying to make you gay?
No, but like they're like, because I think about like protecting young, right? And all that. We're going.
You going there, buddy?
Yeah,
you're going there. Because I'm gonna let you finish, because I'm gonna tell you what's in my mind right now.
Yeah.
You said protecting young. It makes it seem as if so far.
Yep.
That community is full of pedophiles and they're not gonna protect the young.
No, that's not what I meant.
Because that conversation has been had in the Christian church.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%. Yes.
Right.
But I think, there's videos out there of like, for example, of people who are like, yo, would you let your kid have a tattoo?
Okay.
Which is permanent.
Yep.
And they're like, no. Would you let your kid transition? Absolutely. And so like for me, I look at that as that of like protecting our young. I think like, and this is what I say before I jump back into I wanted to say this earlier.
Yep.
At the end of the day, what my belief system is that we're all going to die, and we are going to face the Lord, butt naked, and He's going to judge us all, right? And the Bible talks about how, like, judgment starts in the Lord's house.
Okay.
So it starts in the church first. And so, like, with my belief system, and how the way that I believe in God, He's going to start with me before He starts judging the world.
For sure.
And so for me, like, I'm gonna sound like a white person. I have friends that are gay. I know people that are gay. Okay. And they know where I stand.
I'm gonna encourage you not to say that again, bro.
I know, but and they are a safe place for me to have these conversations.
Sure.
Like I think of one friend that I met at the bar. I'm not going to say his name, who is in that lifestyle, and we've had these conversations. And I say, and I like after I triggered that woman who was an ally, I went to him, and he's like, like maybe you could have said it this way or that way. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm willing to learn to communicate, just like how some people are willing to communicate with me.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to learn how to communicate within the sensitive topic
so
that I can do it in a loving way. But just how they have a right to say, I want to love a man the way that I want to love a man. I'm like, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. Right? You do you. But you can't say that I can't believe my core values, or I have to change my core values to fit your narrative.
The only reason why I disagree with you is because earlier you said that you believe that they should change.
So let me jump back to that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So within the Christian community, God wants everybody to change, right? Like there's a heaven, there's a hell. Like at the end of the day, it's not my job to change them though. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're going to, I want to stay sensitive, but if you're going to sit in that and that's your lifestyle, it is not my job to change you. But I would say that like that may hurt the Lord. And at the end of the day, you're gonna face the God, and it's the same with like men who struggle with pornography, right? Like there's so many men who have hidden pornography and have hidden that addiction and have hidden that struggle, but yet they're out there judging people who are this way and that way. It's the same, but that's the same same thing.
So man, we probably gonna have to have another session, bro.
Yeah.
All right. So couple things that hit me.
Yeah, for sure.
First off, the God that I believe in loves me and everyone else unconditionally. So when we go for Judgment Day, there are no conditions to the love that my God has given. So I don't think that there's parameters around who God loves and how he loves them. Does that make sense? There's nothing. My God is an unconditional lover, right? So you are who you are, and he loves us just as we are. The church has always also said, come as you are. Never asked anyone else to change. So I'm not sure why Christians are asking people in that community to change. That's the first thing.
Okay. Can I tackle that first?
Go ahead.
And I know we don't have much time, so we're running out of time here. I would say yes. Does God love his people unconditionally? Yes.
His people or everyone?
And that's where because
so you're telling me that the Almighty God, just because someone is outside of the realm of Christianity, doesn't love someone that's not considered his people?
So
I have a hard time believing
so
that.
This is what I would say too, and I'm going to have to, like, I hate calling it research, but I'll have to dig into the Bible
for sure.
This topic, because I'm not proclaiming that I'm perfect in this area.
No.
But this is what I would say. Like the Bible talks about like how if you accept Jesus into your heart, and that you love God and you're willing to change your ways, go from sinning to trying not to sin. And then the Bible also talks about just because you know God, or the Bible verse says just because you know Jesus doesn't give you an excuse to keep sinning.
Sure.
And so for when I look at that, and the Bible speaks very clearly on sexual relations and marriage, and what is a sin and what is not. When I even look at Old Testament, I look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, our God is a father God, but what we don't talk about is that our God is going to judge the world. Like, he destroyed a whole city because of their sin. God detests sin. And so I think sometimes we say God is loved so much that we forget that, oh snap, we're going to face God at the end of the day. And sometimes, and even in the Bible, it talks about work out your faith with fear and trembling as well. So it's this mix between the two of like, yes, God loves us, loves his people, or loves everyone, but at the end of the day, God detests sin.
So this is gonna be
can't stand sin.
It's gonna be my last thing because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't believe that God detests sin. I believe God detests wrongdoing. And so when you talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, it was nothing more than God holding people accountable for doing wrong.
Did you read about the lifestyle that they were living?
For the wrongdoing.
So what was the wrongdoing they were doing?
There's more than just that. So that I'm finna tie that in.
Yeah, for sure.
Tie that in.
Yep.
I also think, and this is what my second point earlier was going to be, I also think Christians, for some reason, have an infatuation with sex, sexual organs, and sexual preference. Anytime we talk about like what the sins are, the overcasting sins, we talk about abortion. We talk about gay rights.
Don't even get me started on that.
And we talk about pornography. Like, why are those the big three, as if murder is actually not wrongdoing?
No, murder is wrongdoing.
So why aren't we having the conversation surrounding those topics versus the way someone was born? I think the infatuation with that puts those things into a category of sin because you believe, or Christians believe, that those folks are doing wrong. I disagree with that.
Yep. Well, why don't we end it with this?
Yes.
Okay. We have, as brothers, after this podcast, we're going to shake hands.
You already know.
We're going to
shake hands right now,
Come
bro.
on, man.
Like, what we doing?
But I think we need to go round two.
Yeah, no, you know I'm with it.
And this went from like, hey, we're talking about fatherhood to like, yo, we are talking about political topics. And
but you know what? All of this impacts the lives of our children.
Yes, absolutely.
All of this does.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, man, I appreciate you willingness to come on the podcast and us having this raw conversation.
For sure, bro.
Like, you caught me out, like, I was not expecting to have this conversation, the end part of the conversation with you, man. But I just want to let you know that, like, I value who you are. And even if we disagree, I know you don't like that word, but it is what it is, that we can still come together and we can still be homies. And like, if anybody listening to this podcast, if you can learn something, is that you can disagree with somebody and still love them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, last thing, where can people find you, my brother?
Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can just look up my name, Julian Beaudion.
There you go. How do you spell your last name for the people?
Beaudion.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning into this unexpected turn of a podcast, but it was good. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Once again, this is a Father Built podcast where we build up fathers in holiness, healthiness, and happiness, and we aim to give fathers the tools to build their house of legacy. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and always remember, peace, love, blessings. And I'm going to get raked over the coals, and so is Julian.
Probably.
But we're okay with it. Y'all take it easy. Peace.